Well, whether if you're on Social Security or paying into Social Security, this is the video you don't want to miss. In other words, on Social Security or paying into it, that's everyone in the United States. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is the need to know huge breaking blowout news on Social Security. It is a key component. My own mom paid into it her whole life. She's 82 and retired. So this is going to affect a whole lot of you, a whole lot of my audience. Doge just got a green light to access your Social Security data. Here's what that means. This is no longer Elon Musk in Doge, by the way. This is all the other people who are still working there in Doge. Some of the pieces of data the SSA systems likely have about you: your name, your Social Security number, date and place of birth. In general, this is a fear-mongering article, and I don't agree with a lot of its conclusions, but we'll read it together. When people think of Social Security, they typically think of monthly benefits for the roughly 69 million retirees, disabled workers, dependents, and survivors who receive them today. But efforts by the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, this year to access the Social Security Administration's data systems should conjure up thoughts of data on hundreds of millions of people. So they're trying to scare you. Why? Because the SSA's multiple data systems contain an extensive trove of personal information on most people living in the United States today, as well as those who have died. Yeah. And the ones that are 120 years old, that is the ones who are still pulling in Social Security, illegal fraud. They should be dead, but they're not in our system. While a lower federal court has blocked Doge's efforts to access such data, which it argued it needs in order to curtail waste, fraud, and abuse, the Supreme Court, thank you, Clarence Thomas, lifted that order on Friday, yesterday, allowing Doge to access the data for now. The three liberal justices, Sonia Sotomayor, Alina Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, dissented. So this was another 6-3 decision. In her opinion, Jackson wrote, the government wants to give Doge unfettered access to this personal, non-anonymized information right now before the courts have time to assess whether Doge's access is lawful, she added. Your personal data, the Social Security Administration has on most Americans, runs from cradle to grave. But this is just a huge victory for the Supreme Court and for Trump. Just remember, SSI, those are all bureaucrats. Not all of them are evil. Some are good. Some are bad. I only know the SSI people that work in the government now. There's a higher percentage of scumbag Marxists and dishonest people grifting fraud in Social Security than there are in Doge. I trust Doge more with our information than the government. You're going to get less Democrats looking at it. The problem with Social Security is it's an entitlement. Here's one of the problems brought up by one of my favorite journalists. This is Jim Garrity. And now the inevitable. You can't eliminate or cut my Social Security benefits. I paid into the system, yes. And over the course of your lifetime, you're going to collect more than you paid in, considerably more in many cases. The whole system depends on having enough current workers putting money in to support the retirees taking money out. The baby boomer retirement and shrinking birth rate squeeze the system. The benefits received is the blue chunk. The green line is the amount that you paid in. And that's just because of compound interest and all kinds of other things. I don't depend on SSI paying me anything. Do you know why? When I was in fourth grade, my fourth grade teacher, probably back in 1976, said, Doug, your generation will probably not get a dime of Social Security. And they were right. I'm an artist, self-employed, even my paychecks and even all that. There's hardly any Social Security that I even have to claim. I just think it's going to go insolvent. 58, I could start drawing it in 6 years. And guess what? I could never live on that. It needs to go to other people that have bigger needs. This is where the big news is. This has to do with the cuts and why Trump ran on, I won't touch Social Security. And then Elon Musk, who did deep, deep cuts, would not touch Social Security. He did a few nickel and dime, finding waste, fraud, and abuse that does help Social Security overall. He's the one that found the 120-year-olds, thousands of them collecting Social Security who should not. That's some kind of a fake ID thing. Next tweet, this is the majority of government spending is mandatory government spending. That's Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, and SNAP. This is our safety net for all of America, and you don't touch those. In fact, 25% of the entire budget of the US government is just healthcare. All of these can be deeply cut in the big, beautiful bill. Now, these are people suggesting, and I'm letting you guys know what the public is saying. Some people, this one Twitter guy, is implying they need to be deeply cut. Trump knows no Republican could ever get elected. He would lose. No politician wants to cut Social Security, good or evil. By the way, Social Security, you don't even cut it really. If the government defaults on its money, the law already kicks in and will reduce Social Security benefits by law. It's already built into that system. That's why we can't default on any loan, because it will trigger certain things in Social Security. Social Security, it will touch, and it'll touch that before Medi-Cal, Medicaid, and SNAP. That's why you want to keep jobs growing and keep from going into debt, defaulting on your debt to protect that Social Security payment. Now let's look at the pie chart here. Components of federal spending, fiscal year 2024. Now, this blue area here is the net interest, and this is only growing over time. That's 13% that you're spending on the debt's interest. Flush it down a toilet. This is discretionary spending. This is where Elon Musk was trying to cut from. So that might be any government program, USAID, all that. And this mandatory chunk, look how big that piece of the pie is. That's the mandatory. That's where Social Security lives, 61%. If you're going to talk about fixing the debt and fixing our fiscal problem, you're going to talk about having to cut into that mandatory. I don't know how you do it. There's guys over on the Doge side, so Thomas Massey or Rand Paul, who might say you're going to have to cut 5% of all mandatory equally across the board. Many of them would do that. And that's the problem. Would Thomas Massey cut veteran benefits, VA benefits, Social Security, Medicare, military pay, etc.? He says yes. This is the constitutionalist. What is it that you want to cut? Everyone would like to know specifically. Thomas Massey, I'd cut all of it, any of it. That's the fiscal responsible guys. This is the problem. If they agree to not cut all of those entitlements, then all that's going to happen is they're going to borrow more money, and the money is going to be worth less that you do get because of inflation, which is effectively cutting your Social Security because you can pay for less with it. Everything's going to go up in price. See, let's go to this one. This is Douglas Mackey. Here's what would happen if Republicans cut the budget 20%. That's a 20% cut to Social Security, to Medicaid, to the military, and to discretionary spending. This is my warning back to Doge. This is what you're going to do. All the purists that think, oh, we got to take the heroic hit. Number one, massive protests in the streets, rallies, and demonstrations for the next 3 years. Number two, endless media stories about John and Jane Doe losing their livelihood. Number three, political violence against Republicans. Number four, Democrats win the House in 26. Democrats win the White House and Senate. That would be 28. 2028, Democrats increase spending by 40% in the second New Deal. So if Democrats win because of this, they will grow the government. Here's Steve Bannon on the cuts and the rescission path. Now remember, Steve Bannon is no fan of Elon Musk.
And I realize Russ Vogt is doing this as a test case. I got it. And there's not enthusiasm up there to do it as a test case. And he's going to do pocket rescissions after that. What does it mean? It means you don't have the votes to codify these cuts. But those cuts, I have dug into what they're talking about. I haven't seen any fraud in Social Security. The 3.5 minutes President Trump went through in his State of the Union or his joint Congress, or Medicaid, or the Defense Department. The Defense Department's a festering sore of waste, fraud, and abuse. Show me the money. Where is the beef?
The specifics on the big, beautiful bill, he went in and looked at it. There is no cuts to just the waste, fraud, and abuse. He's not talking about cutting your benefits. He's saying go in and rip out the waste, fraud, and abuse. He doesn't see any specifics. You've been all caught up, but tell me your story. What do you think of Social Security? If you have stories about lack of payments or how it doesn't reach far enough, or that you're able to get by on it, I want to hear from you. I need to know my audience. So tell me your story in the comments below. I'm Doug in Exile. Quad Club.